The garage bay was still humming with the faint echo of tools when Nicholas clicked the lock on the front door and turned to me with eyes I'd never seen before. "Jonathan, I can't let you leave without saying this. I've been fighting it for weeks, but tonight I have to tell you the truth about what I feel when I'm around you." My heart slammed against my ribs as I stood there in the dim glow of the overhead fluorescence, my broken-down sedan still raised on the lift like some silent witness. I had only come in for a simple oil change after my drive from Denver hit a snag on the mountain pass outside our small Colorado town of Evergreen. Nicholas had been the one to greet me that afternoon, his coveralls stained with grease, his easy smile making the wait feel almost pleasant. He called himself straight, joked about his weekend football games and his fiancée back in town, but something in the way he lingered over the engine diagnostics had felt off, charged in a way I couldn't name. Now, with the shop empty and the world locked outside, that charge had turned electric. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you mean, Nicholas? It's just a car repair. You didn't have to stay late." He ran a hand through his short, dark hair, leaving a smudge of oil on his forehead, and stepped closer, the scent of motor oil and faint cologne mixing in the cool night air. "That's the thing. It stopped being just a car hours ago. You walked in here talking about your marketing job in the city, about how you left your family's expectations behind to chase something real, and it hit me like a wrench to the chest. I've spent 32 years telling myself I'm the guy who dates girls, who coaches Little League, who fits the mold my dad drilled into me since I was a kid fixing tractors on the farm. But standing here fixing your car, listening to you laugh at my bad jokes, I realized I've been lying to myself longer than I've been lying to anyone else." My mind raced back to my own hidden corners. The college years I spent pushing down feelings for my roommate. The quiet dates I never told my conservative parents about because Evergreen wasn't ready for a son like me. I had moved back after my mom's health scare to help with the family hardware store, burying myself in work to avoid the questions. Nicholas's confession cracked open a door I thought I had nailed shut. "Nicholas, you don't have to explain anything to me. I'm just a customer." He shook his head, his broad shoulders tense under the worn fabric. "No, you're not. You're the first person who made me feel seen without asking me to perform. My fiancée, Sarah. She's great, she really is. But when I'm with her, it's like I'm reading lines from a script I never wrote. With you, even just talking about engines and life in this town, it's real. I stayed late because I couldn't let you drive away without knowing that." The silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant hum of the highway. I felt my cheeks heat, a mix of shock and something warmer I refused to name. This wasn't how my Tuesday was supposed to end. I had come for a fix, not to upend the careful balance I had built. Yet here was Nicholas, the town's reliable straight mechanic, looking at me like I was the answer to questions he had buried for years. I took a breath, forcing calm into my voice. "Okay, tell me everything, then, but let's sit down. Standing here like this is making my knees weak." We pulled up 2 metal stools near the workbench, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the concrete floor littered with wrenches and rags. Nicholas started slow, recounting how he had grown up in Evergreen, idolizing his father who ran the only garage for miles around. Dad always said real men fix things, provide for their families, marry the girl next door. I did all that, proposed to Sarah last spring. But lately, every time I close my eyes, I see moments that don't fit, like the way I felt in high school when my best friend hugged me after we won state. I told myself it was just brotherhood. Now I know it wasn't. His voice cracked, and I saw the weight of years pressing on him. I shared a piece of my own story then, careful not to push too far, about how I had left for college thinking distance would solve my confusion, only to return feeling more lost. Family dinners are the worst. Mom asks when I'll settle down with a nice girl from church. Dad talks about carrying on the family name. I smile and nod because the alternative scares me more than the lie. Nicholas listened like no one ever had. His blue eyes locked on mine, nodding at the parts that mirrored his own fears. By the time the clock hit 10, we had moved past the surface. He admitted the pull he felt the moment I stepped out of my car, how my easy laugh and the way I asked real questions about his life had cracked his armor. I stayed late because walking away felt like losing something I didn't even know I had. The air grew thicker with unspoken possibilities, but neither of us crossed the line. We simply talked, two men in a locked garage navigating the first cracks in their carefully built walls. When I finally stood to leave, my car now purring smoothly on the lift, Nicholas grabbed my arm gently. "Promise me this isn't the end of the conversation. I don't know what comes next, but I can't pretend anymore." I nodded, my pulse still racing. "It's not the end. But we both have lives waiting outside that door." Driving home through the quiet streets of Evergreen, the mountains silhouetted against the starry sky, I replayed every word. Nicholas had shattered the illusion that my hidden world was safe. And in doing so, he had invited me into his own storm. I didn't sleep much that night, the weight of what might come pressing down like the Colorado snow that was forecasted for the week ahead. Little did I know, that single late night was only the beginning of choices that would test everything I thought I knew about myself, about love, and about the courage it took to stand in the light. The next morning, the hardware store buzzed with its usual rhythm. Customers chatting about the upcoming harvest festival. My dad barking orders from the back while Mom arranged displays of new tools. I moved through it all on autopilot, my mind replaying the garage conversation like a loop I couldn't pause. Nicholas had texted once, "A simple car running okay?" That felt loaded with everything unsaid. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji, too afraid to type more. By lunch, the weight of it had me slipping out to the alley behind the store for air. Evergreen's main street stretched out, lined with the same family-owned shops that had stood for generations. The kind of place where everyone knew your name and your business. That was the problem. If word got out about last night, even the innocent parts, it would ripple through town faster than a mountain storm. I had seen it happen before, to a cousin who moved away after rumors started. Nicholas, though, he had more to lose. His garage was the heart of the community. His dad had built it from nothing. Sarah worked at the elementary school, her family deep in the local church that preached the very values Nicholas had grown up believing. I wondered how he was holding up today, elbows deep in another engine while pretending everything was normal. My phone buzzed again. This time it was him. "Lunch break at the diner? Just talk. No pressure." My stomach flipped. Part of me wanted to say no, to retreat into the safety of my routines. But the honesty in his voice last night had cracked something open in me too. I typed back, "See you in 20. The diner was half full when I arrived, the smell of coffee and burgers thick in the air. Nicholas sat in the corner booth, still in his coveralls, looking every bit the reliable mechanic the town loved. But his eyes lit up when he saw me, a spark that made my chest tighten. We ordered burgers and fries like any two guys grabbing a quick bite, but the conversation dove straight back into the deep end. "I told Sarah I worked late on a rush job," he admitted quietly, glancing at the door as if expecting someone to overhear. "She bought it, but I felt sick lying. Not about the hours, about the reason I stayed." I stirred my coffee, choosing my words carefully. "Nicholas, you don't owe me explanations. Last night was intense, but we can chalk it up to exhaustion and move on." He shook his head, his jaw set. "That's the lie I've been telling myself my whole life. Moving on. Pretending the feelings weren't there. You made me see it wasn't just tiredness. It was me finally waking up." He talked then about the pressure building at home. Sarah planning their wedding for next summer, his dad pushing him to take over the garage full-time and start a family. "They see the version of me I created to survive. But you saw through it in one afternoon." I shared more about my own family dynamics, how my parents had hinted at setting me up with the pastor's daughter, how the hardware store was supposed to be my future too. I came back to help, but every day I feel like I'm shrinking to fit their mold. Our food arrived, but neither of us ate much. Instead, we lingered over refills, the diner noise fading as we mapped out the invisible lines between friendship and something deeper. Nicholas asked about my past relationships, careful, respectful questions that showed he was processing his own confusion without judgment. I told him about the one guy in college I had dated briefly, how it ended because I couldn't face bringing him home. It left scars. I swore I'd never risk that again. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get it. My dad caught me once as a teen looking at a magazine, nothing wild, just curiosity, and he sat me down with a lecture that lasted hours. I buried it so deep I forgot it was there until you walked into the shop. As we paid the bill, the afternoon sun slanting through the windows, Nicholas reached across the table briefly, his calloused fingers brushing mine. It was quick, accidental almost, but it sent a jolt through me. I don't know what happens next, Jonathan, but I want to figure it out. Not alone. Outside, we parted with a promise to meet again after my shift. Walking back to the store, I felt the first real stirrings of hope mixed with terror. This wasn't just a crush or a fleeting moment. It was the start of a conversation that could upend both our worlds. That evening, as I helped close the hardware store, my dad clapped me on the back. Good work today, son. You're a natural at this life. His words landed like stones. I smiled, but inside, Nicholas's confession echoed louder than ever. The town lights flickered on as I drove home, the mountains closing in like silent guardians of secrets. I didn't text him back right away, but I knew I would. The door we had opened last night wasn't closing easily, and for the first time in years I didn't want it to. The days blurred into a careful dance of stolen moments and careful silences. Nicholas and I met twice more that week. Once at a quiet trailhead outside town where the pine trees shielded us from prying eyes, and again at his garage after hours when Sarah was at a school meeting. Each time, the conversations grew deeper, peeling back layers we had both armored for too long. He told me about the nights he lay awake beside Sarah, staring at the ceiling and questioning every choice that had led him there. She deserves someone who's all in, he said one evening, his voice low as we sat on the tailgate of his truck under a blanket of stars. But I can't keep pretending I am. I listened, sharing my own fears about disappointing my parents, about the hardware store being more than a job. It was their legacy, and walking away felt like betrayal. They raised me to be the son who stays, who marries, who fits. Yet with Nicholas, those expectations felt lighter, like maybe there was room to rewrite them. Tension crept in as the week wore on. A mutual friend from the football league spotted us grabbing coffee one afternoon and joked about the new bromance. Nicholas laughed it off, but I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes. Back at the garage the next night, he admitted the weight was crushing him. My dad stopped by yesterday, talking about grandkids and how proud he is of the man I've become. I almost told him everything right there. His hands trembled slightly as he wiped down a tool bench, the same strong hands that had fixed my car and now seemed to hold my fragile hope. I reached out instinctively, covering his with mine for the first time intentionally. You don't have to rush anything. We're just figuring this out. But the words felt hollow even to me. The misunderstanding hit a few days later when Sarah called me out of the blue. Nicholas had mentioned my name in passing as a good customer who needed extra help. She invited me to dinner at their place, all friendly and welcoming, thinking I was just another guy in his circle. I went, heart pounding, because refusing would raise more questions. The evening was torture. Sitting across from them in their cozy kitchen, watching Nicholas force smiles while Sarah talked wedding plans. He avoided my eyes most of the night, but once, when she stepped out for dessert, his gaze met mine with raw apology. This is killing me, he whispered. Driving home after, I pulled over on a dark stretch of road and let the tears come. Was I the one causing his pain, or was I the catalyst for his freedom? The next morning brought a text from Nicholas. We need to talk. My place after work. Sarah's out of town for a conference. I arrived to find him pacing the living room, the space filled with photos of his life, the football trophies, the engagement pictures, now feeling like props in a play he no longer wanted to star in. I almost told her last night after you left, he said, voice breaking. But I froze. The look on her face if I said it, I can't do that to her yet. We sat on the couch, the distance between us shrinking as he opened up about his childhood fears, the bullying he had hidden even from his family. I thought if I just played the part long enough, the feelings would fade. They didn't. They grew until you showed up. I shared my story of a past betrayal, a college friend who had outed me subtly to my dorm, forcing me to transfer schools. It taught me to guard everything. But with you, I don't want to guard anymore. That night, we didn't kiss or cross any physical lines. Instead, we held space for each other's pain, making promises to face whatever came next together. As I left, Nicholas hugged me at the door, a brotherly gesture to anyone watching, but to us it was the start of something sacred. The following weekend, family pressure mounted for me too. My parents hosted a barbecue, inviting the usual crowd, including the pastor's daughter who sat beside me with obvious interest. Nicholas showed up late, invited by my dad as the guy who saved your car. Watching him chat with everyone, fitting perfectly into the straight-laced image, tore at me. Later, in the backyard shadows, he pulled me aside. I see how they look at you, how they look at us. It's like we're both wearing masks. His words ignited a resolve in me. We couldn't keep hiding forever, but rushing would shatter too much. The misunderstanding came when a town gossip saw us leave the barbecue together and whispered to my mom. By Monday, she asked pointed questions over breakfast. Is there something going on with that mechanic friend of yours? People are talking. I deflected, but the seed was planted. Nicholas faced his own storm when his dad dropped by the garage demanding why he had been distracted lately. He thinks it's pre-wedding jitters. Nicholas told me that night over a hurried phone call. But I'm cracking, Jonathan. This is bigger than jitters. Our bond deepened through the chaos, each conversation a step toward clarity. Yet the internal wars raged on, his guilt over Sarah, my fear of family rejection. The choices loomed larger with every passing day, pulling us toward a crossroads neither of us could ignore much longer. The betrayal hit like a cold front sweeping down from the Rockies, unexpected and sharp. It started innocently enough, a group text from the football buddies inviting Nicholas and a few of us to a Saturday pickup game at the park. I went because he asked, thinking it was safe ground. But midway through, one of the guys, Mike, cornered me by the water cooler. Heard you and Nick been spending a lot of time together after hours. Everything cool? His tone was casual, but his eyes narrowed. I shrugged it off with a laugh, but later that night Nicholas called, voice tight. Mike asked me straight up if something was going on between us. I panicked and said you were just a customer needing extra help. Denied everything. The words landed like a punch. I sat in my car outside the hardware store, the phone pressed to my ear, feeling the foundation we had built crack. You denied me? After everything we talked about? Nicholas sighed heavily, the sound of his garage tools clanging in the background. I know. It was instinct. Sarah was there, my dad was watching from the sidelines. Couldn't. I wasn't ready. The misunderstanding spiraled from there. He texted apologies the next day, but the distance grew. I threw myself into work at the store, avoiding his calls, replaying how quickly he had retreated into the straight role he knew so well. My own identity crisis deepened in the silence. At family dinner that Sunday, Mom mentioned the gossip again, this time linking it to Nicholas. People say you two are awfully close. Is there trouble? Dad grunted something about real men sticking to their own kind. Their words echoed Nicholas's denial, making me question if I had imagined the connection. I drove to the garage one evening unannounced, finding him alone under a truck. We need to clear the air, I said, voice steadier than I felt. He slid out, wiping his hands, eyes filled with regret. Jonathan, I messed up. Denying it wasn't about you, it was about me not knowing how to face the fallout. My family, the town. They built me into this guy. Changing now feels like destroying everything. We talked for hours again, but the trust had frayed. He admitted the internal battle was tearing him apart. Guilt over Sarah, fear of losing his garage if word spread, the awakening that made him see his life as a cage. You're the first person who makes me want to break free. But breaking free means hurting people I love. I shared my own sacrifice, the decision I was contemplating to tell my parents the truth, even if it meant stepping away from the store. I can't keep shrinking for them. But doing it alone scares me more than staying hidden. The conversation ended in a tentative truce, but the emotional toll lingered. Over the next week, Nicholas pulled back publicly, canceling our planned hikes and keeping interactions to quick shop visits. I felt the betrayal sting deeper each time, wondering if his confession had been a moment of weakness rather than strength. Yet in private texts, he poured out his heart. I'm not backing away from you. I'm trying to figure out how to stand up without falling apart. The town's prejudice crept in subtly. A customer at the store muttering about those city types bringing strange ideas. My mom's worried glances. Nicholas faced his own when his fiancée noticed his distraction and asked if he was having second thoughts about the wedding. He didn't deny it fully, buying time with work stress. But the lie weighed on him. One night, after closing the garage, he showed up at my door unannounced, rain soaking his jacket. I can't sleep thinking I hurt you. The denial was a reflex, but it doesn't erase what I feel. We sat on my porch, the mountain wind howling, and he opened up about a long-buried memory. A summer camp crush as a teen that he had buried after his dad's warning. That fear never left. Until you. His vulnerability rebuilt some of the bridge, but the damage from the public denial lingered in my mind. I realized then that growth wasn't linear. It came with setbacks, misunderstandings, and the painful choices to forgive or walk away. We decided to meet less openly for a while, focusing on internal work, but the connection pulled us back. The week ended with a small victory. Nicholas told Sarah he needed space to sort his head, without naming me. It was a step, fragile but real. Driving to work the next day, I felt the tension building toward something bigger. A confrontation neither of us could avoid much longer. The sacrifices we were weighing felt heavier than the Colorado peaks, but for the first time, I believed we might carry them together. The climax unfolded on a crisp fall evening when the Harvest Festival lit up Evergreen's town square with string lights and laughter. Nicholas had invited me as a friend, Sarah by his side in a role she still believed was permanent. I went for closure or maybe courage. The air smelled of cider and grilled corn, but my stomach churned with anticipation. We crossed paths near the bonfire, his eyes finding mine across the crowd with that same intensity from the garage. Later, when Sarah stepped away for the pie contest, he pulled me behind the bandstand. I can't do this anymore. The pretending. Tonight, I'm telling my dad everything. His voice shook, but resolve burned in it. The confrontation came fast. His father spotted us talking too closely and marched over, demanding answers. What's this I hear about you two? Son, explain yourself. Nicholas stood tall, the mechanic who fixed cars now facing the man who had fixed his path for decades. Dad, I've been living a lie. I care about Sarah, but I'm falling for Jonathan. It's not a phase. It's me. The words hung in the festival air, drawing stares from nearby families. His dad's face hardened, years of tradition clashing with the truth. This town won't accept it. Your garage, your life. You'll lose it all. Nicholas didn't back down, though pain etched his features. I've already lost myself pretending. Jonathan showed me what real feels like. I stepped forward, my own voice steady for the first time. Sir, this isn't about tearing anything down. It's about building honestly. The argument escalated, voices rising until Sarah appeared, tears in her eyes. Nicholas, is this true? The betrayal she felt mirrored my earlier hurt, but Nicholas chose truth over ease. It is. I'm sorry, Sarah. You deserve better than half a man. She walked away, the crowd whispering. My parents arrived moments later, drawn by the commotion. Dad's disappointment hit hardest. We raised you better than this confusion. Mom's quiet tears cut deeper. In that public square, under the festival lights, we faced the societal weight head-on. Prejudice wrapped in concern, expectations demanding sacrifice. Nicholas and I stood side by side, hands not touching but hearts aligned. The night ended with us driving to the same trailhead where we had first talked deeply, the stars witnessing our raw emotions. He wept for the life he was risking, but admitted the freedom felt lighter. I sacrificed the image, but I gained me. I shared my decision to step back from the family store temporarily, giving space for honest conversations later. It hurts, but hiding hurt more. Our growth crystallized there. The internal crises resolved not by running but by choosing each other amid the fallout. He had awakened to his truth. I had found the courage to stop shrinking. The drive home was quiet, but the bond stronger than the misunderstandings or family storms. We knew the road ahead held more tests, legalities around the garage, healing with Sarah, rebuilding with parents, but the foundation was set. In the weeks that followed, small steps marked our progress. Nicholas renegotiated his role at the garage with his dad's reluctant acceptance. I started open talks with my family over coffee instead of confrontation. The town gossip faded into reluctant tolerance as we lived quietly, proving through actions that love between men didn't destroy communities. It enriched them. Nicholas's journey from straight mechanic to authentic partner taught me that awakening wasn't overnight but a series of brave decisions. Mine showed him that support meant standing firm when the world pushed back. Together, we navigated the balance of past obligations and new beginnings, our friendship evolving into the partnership we both craved. Months later, the Colorado winter blanketed evergreen in snow, softening the edges of old conflicts. Nicholas had moved into a small apartment above the garage after amicable talks with Sarah, who had found her own path forward with grace that humbled us both. My parents, though still processing, invited us for a quiet family dinner where conversations stayed surface level but doors remained open. The town had shifted too. Subtle nods at the store, fewer whispers. We sat on my porch one evening, wrapped in blankets against the chill, watching the mountains glow under moonlight. Nicholas turned to me, his hand finding mine openly now. "Remember that first night? I thought confessing would end my world. Instead, it started the real one." I smiled, the journey flashing through my mind. The misunderstandings that tested us, the family pressures that forged resilience, the sacrifices that revealed our strengths. You didn't just stay after closing. You stayed for me. For us, through everything. Our growth had been hard-won. Nicholas had learned that identity wasn't a label his father or town assigned, but a truth he claimed daily. I had discovered that loving another man didn't mean losing my family or community. It meant inviting them into a fuller version of me. We talked about the future, expanding the garage together, me balancing the hardware store with my marketing dreams, building a life where love wasn't hidden. No grand gestures, just steady choices. Supporting each other at town events, facing questions with honesty, celebrating small victories like his dad's first reluctant handshake. The emotional arc had peaked in that festival confrontation and settled into quiet strength. As the snow fell softly, Nicholas leaned closer. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." I squeezed his hand. We saw each other. The story wasn't perfect. Scars from betrayal and prejudice lingered, but the human connection had triumphed. In America's small towns, where expectations ran deep, we had carved space for something real. True or false? Can a single late-night conversation truly awaken a straight man's hidden feelings and change two lives forever?